You know?
Well, the anxiety is one of the elements that tyranny is based on, manipulation of human anxiety. And we pointed out in the talk that there was obviously various kinds of anxiety. Some you want to get rid of, some you don't, that kind of thing. But the controllers are certainly thoroughly aware. I mean, first of all, they're aware of it that we're basically, slaves. That's what they think. They think that they've built our civilizations, they've created our reality, any affluence that we may experience, any sense of well-being. They look at us as if they're the providers, and we should be eternally grateful. And as they try to move towards this global village concept, they basically want our complicity in that. And therefore, they also think that by making things very troublesome, very difficult, very anxiety-ridden, people start having fear, we'll lean on Big Brother, we'll lean on father figure again, to get that sense of stability that may be lacking. But the thing is that then it needs to be pointed out to people, those not even familiar with the subject matter, that it is by design that is done. Because otherwise, the anxiety you spoke about is perpetual. How would you get out of it? If you didn't twig it, that this is in fact by design, some other hidden forces are working around me to make me feel this way. Because what's happening is that you're being drawn out into the world, you're being drawn out into the collective. And the anxiety arises because there's a distancing now between your own true self, right, which is what you've been born here to realize, and the whole other matrix of duties and domestic minutiae and charitable acts and altruistic acts and political affiliations and religious beliefs. See, that's all just false. And we're being pulled out of that. And so the anxiety that you speak of arises because some sort of inner voice within us resists that. And it sets up, the call of that authenticity is then perceived as anxiety. What do we do? And not knowing that, we then step into the whole leviathan of the pharmaceuticals and the doctors, the men in the white coats. We were mentioning philosophers like Foucault, who had been warning about this for umpteen years. Watch out, because these are agents of globalism. These are agents of control. But we go, it's sort of like a white magic ritual in which you go to them. They don't necessarily come to you. But you step into their world, say, Doc, fix me, there's something wrong, I can't sleep at night, whatever. And so millions and millions of dollars, millions of pounds are put into the creation of all of these happy drugs. And also the media, all the mainstream media. And it's so addictive because people need to escape into that media. They need to escape into those archetypal scenarios, the sitcoms, the movies, the imagery. So, as we point out, the kids, the very violent, sort of aggressive media that they're obsessed with, you see. But they can't stop because it's addictive. There's so much repressed anger, there's so much repressed aggression. And it becomes very addictive then. So when you're trying to then go cold turkey and maybe step into what I have described as the holy work, which is this revelation, because I'm one of the only people in this movement who absolutely insists that the study of conspiracy material is should be considered identical with a spiritual process.
Sure.
I remember we said that the mind splits and creates a social persona, basically a pseudo-self, and then moves in, it's like a counterfeit self, and then there's the real self that I was calling the imperial self. So the Facebook concept and all of this electronica is basically that. It's to present yourself as this pseudo-self, because that's what you do. Just like when you used to meet people, you interact with society as a pseudo-self, not a real self. This has been pointed out by many people, but it's not taught to us today. We needed to be taught those things as soon as we entered school. Well, we needed to be taught a lot of things when we entered school. Remember, I talked about 3 or 4 of them. How they missed telling us that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the soul, the science is in now that says the self exists. I mean, the science is in that the soul exists. It's no longer a matter of argy-bargy or any type of contradiction, and is it or isn't it? When that was only when you had mystics that you just didn't want to accept. Now we have the top scientists have proved it. And also remember they've created the technology now to actually see how the neurons move in the fetus. So the theories of Noam Chomsky and others are now proven correct. Just Noam Chomsky going all the way back to Immanuel Kant, who said that we are born with innate ideas. We have an architecture that's already innate. It doesn't come with experience, right? And Noam Chomsky coming under that heading to say we have a matrix of a linguistical matrix. That's how children can learn umpteen languages so early, learn how to inflect and even correct their elders on ways to speak. that when they analyze even baby talk, it actually is logically more correct than some of the ways that we've adopted later on. There's fascinating studies in all of this. And so now that they've actually had the gadgets, the scientists, even the most skeptical creatures, are confronted now with actually seeing the very antithesis of what they've been sprouting for years and what millions of dollars has been spent with. And that's another huge piece to bring into this movement, to show, like the Greg Bradens have been doing, and various others have been doing this, certainly Bruce Lipton. You see, they're coming forth now to tell the scientific world, shut up, right? We're no longer listening to this rubbish. We're no longer going to think of man as just this robot. Remember the Daniel Dennett quote that we had, where the cell can do a lot of different things. Well, of course, it's dead, but it has no intelligence. But it can do all these remarkable things, like watch me, I'm even speaking. You know. Remember that thing we said that just because a goat's got a long beard doesn't mean he's a high priest. Exactly. Well, that's what's running loose. But their own words are contradictory. Remember, we pointed out the contradiction of saying that if your whole persona, if your whole sense of I-ness is based on being perceived, it's a social construct. That is itself contradictory. Remember, we pointed out that even in their own works, it's contradictory. So going through, I rest my work a lot on the masters and the elders of before, but also taking from the horse's mouth these scientists and these materialists and physicalists, bring their teachings and right there. So it's not Michael Tsarion making any point of view. Read it with me, and let's look at the contradictions together. And when you do that, it's like a big relief to say, wow, where have I been? I've been under a state of hypnosis here with all of this nonsense, you know. That's vital. It's a vital part of it all. It's either meaning coming from without or meaning coming from within. And most of the people you're surrounded by are chronically addicted to the world in the negative sense. They wouldn't have a clue what it means to bring meaning from within themselves. They were probably given birth by people who are in the same boat. So the other person, the other type of being, the existentially, we were calling them morally superior in the talk. The morally superior person has the capacity to bring meaning from out within himself, even if he's in a dungeon, even if he's in a place where everything's lost and when everything's ruined, even when devastation hits him. Why can he tolerate? Why can he suffer through miseries, untold miseries and untold harangues and untold letdowns and romantic and emotional upsets? Is not because he's got some constitution of an ox or anything like that. It's because he has a different relationship with those energies, right? It's each of us. Some people have a stronger will, some don't. But it's not even that. That's not even what I really mean. That helps you go through harangues. Of course it does. But what really helps you go through the major existential harangues that you're going to encounter when you try to go walk the Siddhartha road, that's different. That's even more painful, more chronically alienating, and so on. So when you walk on that road, the only thing that keeps you going is the fact that you have to first adopt a new relationship with pain, with sorrow, with death. And that is what is being left out of most of the people who speak in this area. They're speaking about ascension and angels and Flash Gordons and we's and us's and ours, and it's all the sun's about to shine, and never mentioning the fact that true growth comes out of destruction first. That's ancient, that's old, all the tribes knew that, the shaman knew that. How come we forgot it? That if true progress doesn't happen when you build Apollonian, like an Apollonian process where you keep on building and building and building like a bloody house of cards. That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that is. That's not progress. Progress is building, deconstructing, rebuilding. That's what it is. We've forgotten this. That's why we're all askew right now. So the deconstructive model. But in the middle of the deconstructive model, you also need to plug in, you also need to factor in the concept that because you're going to experience these states of decay and this catabolic action, you have to be all right with it. So the thing that really distinguishes the superior moral man is that he changes his relationship to death. You know, I don't want to be Bela Lugosi about it, but the point is that he has a different relationship with death than other people do. The fact of the external environment is just a direct mirror of the internal environment. And if somebody's in a state of decay inside, you know, how do you expect him to behave? Now that's an old motif, going back to the shamanistic times, not the pseudo-shamanistic times, the true shamanistic times in which there was a complete understanding. They'd watch children, you see, they'd watch them to see how they're relating to nature.
Yeah, sure.
Because they knew that this will reveal, you know, the psyche of that child. So yeah, we're on an infantile level where the world around us is invisible to us. Its beauty means nothing except on a recreational level. It's there to be like a sort of a dumpster.
Yeah,
I have so many people tell me, you know, Michael, what can you tell me about numbers? Because I keep seeing these same numbers appearing all around me. You know, and then because they're wondering why that is, or why am I interested in this kind of music or whatever? Because all of that geometry, sacred geometry, numerology, and symbolism, and also the music, which comes under the heading of symbolism, basically. Remember we talked about the bioenergy, the flow of the bioenergy. Music is an expression of the bioenergy. So that's all affecting this right brain or ancestral mind. That's why we're addicted to it, and it leads you, it guides you. It has, you know, for instance, about a month or two before I came to Australia, and before we really even knew that the tour was, you know, going to happen, I've been listening to a piece of music called Maroubra Bay. All right. I don't even know what that. Maroubra Bay. I couldn't even pronounce the word right. And finally, finally, I looked it up on the internet because, you know, the piece of music was kind of, it's made by band members I'm intrigued by, and I think they're interesting. So I kind of, all right, look it up, or something guided me to look it up. Sure. Now I see it's in Australia, not in the jungle somewhere. So it's in here you are, and here's, you know, showed you some of the pictures of the houses. I think on Wikipedia or something like that. And I sort of read up on the demographics, and somebody been looking over my shoulder and go, "What are you looking up Maroubra Bay for?" Past, present, future. Now I'm traveling in your car under signs going, Maroubra Bay, mate.
5 minutes down the
road.
road.
The closed off person, right? I could be standing on it tomorrow, you know what I mean? Yeah. So now step back from the canvas and look at the miracle of that. Now, of course, a desensitized person wouldn't, even when they're doing it, wouldn't realize it. Exactly. But I'm a bit more awakened, so I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Started off with a piece of music. Why did I even get concerned with what the piece was called, etc.? Something in my psyche was working, because the psyche knows the future. It knows what's coming. And 5 minutes later, you're actually in the physical place. Now, that's just one small example. I've got plenty of other ones as well.
Me too, yeah.
You know, of these synchronicities, you know what I mean, sure. That happen. So the opening of the shutter, you know, of a person's life, and looking for guidance from that is the key. And the little bit of intimations from music and from art and from the numbers, people seeing the numbers, that's starting to happen. Their aperture is starting to open now. And that's fantastic, because that's the real solution. Right? That's the gateway to salvation, is that.